Welcome, friends, fans, and fellow adventurers. Your Rolling with Advantage has landed you here at D4&After. I am your host, Ross Lee, and tonight I am joined by the lovable Goblin Katie, who plays the Azamar Paladin Rogue, Seisha Valispar, and one of our beloved co-DMs, Devan. Fair warning, this episode will contain spoilers for episode 138 and before, especially episode 137. Probably going to lean into that one a little bit heavier. So you have been warned. A couple housekeeping notes. These shows are pre-recorded. So if you have questions, please submit them via the D4 Discord on the D4&After questions channel by Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We will do our best to try to get to every question submitted. Sometimes due to time constraints, we might not be able to. If we aren't able to answer your question, please feel free to tag whoever the question was directed at in the Discord. And if they have time and are able to, they might be able to answer it. This show airs every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You're here with us right now. Great to have you here. And the VOD will be available for Patreon members the following week. I think that's it from a housekeeping standpoint. So without further ado, let's jump in. Thank you both for joining me this evening.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So there's a lot that's happened in the last, I don't know, month, more.
Yeah.
And I know Goblin, like when you and Rhea were on, like we got a little bit into some of this.
Mm-hmm.
More has happened since then.
Yeah. Seisha's been through a little bit. The BFGs have been through a little bit. It's been a thing.
Yeah, that's a great understatement, you know?
Yeah.
There have been some new friends made along the way, which is very cool. But let's start with kind of let's say that, for lack of a better term, the journey that Seisha has been on recently. And this isn't so this has been building up for a while, I feel like, with Seisha in particular. The Mistmaster, her learning more about her relationship with her mom through fighting the corruption with her Solar, through all those pieces are just slowly been put into place by the DMs for you guys to just walk that direction. How, as Seisha was coming out of limbo, you find yourself in the Mistmaster's palace. Like, where is Seisha at in her brain space starting that?
She was in a difficult place. She had faced herself in the mirror and had seen all of the things that she lied to herself about or felt that she believed she couldn't express. And she recognized that this was not the way to live, that if she was going to be a paladin of Agma, she had to address those lies and she had to face them. And I see you grinning over there. And so she was trying to deal with them as they came out from viewing the mirror, and she was trying to accept some of it she was just trying to push down and ignore. And then she found herself at the Citadel of Mists, and she was fairly certain that either her mother or Lara, or both, would be there. And so she was terrified, I guess is the best way to put it, because she was dealing with all these life issues and then with what she thought was going to be the culmination of her search for her mother. So it was a little rough going in there.
Yeah. Understatement, I would say, on your part at least. along those lines, I know Hidden Target asked, how do you, as a player, prepare for those high emotional moments, especially as you see them coming? Um,
I personally do a lot of driving for work. And so I'll put on my Seisha playlist and think about the game and kind of run through things in my head. When I know I've got something emotional coming up, I'll try to think of a if it's like this last episode that we did going in where she was crying at the end of the episode before, so I needed her crying at the beginning of this episode, I will try to think of a key moment or a key thought that really resonates emotionally. And for this most recent episode, for instance, it was the fact that she never felt her mother's touch before she was taken from her. And that, it gets me. It's such a simple thing that holds so much emotion to it that when I thought about it, that got me into the tear shape. But most of the time, I was a theater student, and most of the time I go with the Meisner method, which is just react in the moment, don't try to plan stuff out. And I am blessed with the tippy top role players, and I absolutely love them. My whole gang, the D4 gang, is just so good at tapping into emotions. It's easy to play off them. So typically, it's not that difficult.
well, that's fascinating, and that's just a tribute, I think, to everyone at the table that you all are so interconnected emotionally that you can play off each other so well.
Yeah, DMs included. They definitely.
Oh yeah.
play the game.
On that note, on that note, Devan, how do you plan for those bigger emotional moments? How do you and Dustin plan for those bigger emotional moments that you know are coming? Whether that's a plan for you as a DM or like how you maybe see like, okay, it could go this way, or like the players could react this way, or do you feel like you have a pretty good pulse on each character in general?
So it kind of goes into the way that I write a lot of things. I just kind of put I know my players, or all of our players, very well, to the point of I kind of know what choices they'll make most of the time. Some of them are wild cards, and then some, players are going to surprise you all the time in every game. But I just kind of try and get my own thoughts into their headspace. Like if I was their character, how would I respond to this moment? And we try and give them enough rope to feel like they have a grasp of what's going on. And then while they're playing with the rope, we pull the rug out from underneath them. And that may or may not go well for them.
I see Goblin nodding, being like, "Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do."
Just a little bit.
But all of our players are amazing, and when they first created these characters, it was really wild to see that every single one of them, save for, I mean, you could still even argue Voss, even though it wasn't his parents, it was his upbringing, but all of them had familial trauma. And like either abandonment issues. I mean, that was a key thing. Actually, that was a key thing against all of them. Voss didn't have parents. Seisha never knew her mother. Harold was literally abandoned. And V, that's how we started the game, was her father being like, "You're ostracized,"
And Venley.
And then Vinley also, definitely having that estranged, weird relationship. It wasn't her family that actually pushed her away. It was other events. But there was never like a close bond. And there's always that feeling of slight animosity that Vinley plays off as like, oh, that's just my family. So getting to play with that is... I don't want to say fun, because familial trauma is a real thing in the world, and we all, most people experience it to some degree because parents are human and flawed, as we all are. So I think our goal was to make the parents also have stories and feel like real people, and then that plays into the effect of like how we prepare for these moments. Especially like the ones we're talking about on this episode. Because if it's just like there was no motivation or there was no reason, the player's not going to feel any emotion. They're just going to be like, oh, okay, well, sure. But if you let them see that the world is gray and these people that they either want to love or be loved by have their own issues, it just adds to the role play and the scene and the depth of the characters and the role and the connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. This was a user submitted question that I feel like plays into both of you a little bit. You both, so Strike Red, Kite, both asked, like, how has your LARP experience influenced your play in general as a DM and player? Does that experience help you be able to draw on those emotional threads easier? Devan, does that help you with like planning a little bit more, just the experience there? So Katie, why don't you go first? Does your LARPing experience help you with those emotional strings that you draw on?
Definitely. As I mentioned, I had a background in theater, and so I went into tabletop thinking, oh, I can do this. I know all this stuff. And then from tabletop, I got into LARPing, and I learned what immersion really is. I learned how to think in the mindset of a character more than the mindset of, okay, my character's getting this stimulus. Well, how am I going to react to it? Thanks to LARPing and being in that character for 3 days solid, sleeping in character, eating in character, everything. I learned how to more seamlessly think as the character. And I brought that back to tabletop with me. And I think it's done wonders for my TTRPG work.
That's awesome. Devan?
Technically, I've only LARPed for 2 years. Because then I went to plot. And then once I got to plot, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I don't want to play a character.
I don't want to be the tormented. I want to be the tormentor.
Yeah. It was always like, oh man, I like what's happening on this mod, and I like what's happening in the story, but it could be better. And then I spent too much money and too much time going into building immersion for players by making costumes for all my NPCs, building mod things so that I'm a DM that I've played in a game like this and I didn't like it, where the DM withheld information like, oh, you walked into a house. And you're like, okay, what's around me? Okay, where are you looking? Well, I look to the left. Oh, on the left wall you see this. And it's just like you have to pull information out, and I don't like that. So if you notice, like our descriptions can be a little bit verbose, but that's because I want to immerse our players into the scene, which is what I also tried to do with the LARP. But I did that visually versus verbally, because if I'm a player and I walk in, like if I'm a real person, I walk into a house, I immediately see what I see. I don't need to pull information from the house.
Totally.
I don't need to interrogate the house. Tell me what I see. But you give them the layout, so there's the immersion and stuff like that. But for LARP purposes, I think it helped me create NPCs, because as a LARPer, you spend in a player, you spend so much time like crafting this perfect, either heroic character or flawed character, or heroic, flawed heroic character, which is the best combo. But making different types of NPCs, some that are just like fun throwaway characters that people latch onto, aka Salazar, and and true villains, which I'm not sure if you've noticed on D4. There isn't any besides like the Elder Evils.
There's George. George can go fuck himself.
he's tied to the Elder Evils, so anything directly tied to the Elder Evils isn't in the gray area. But I like creating villains that live in the gray area, because then that makes them real people. They have real motivations. They have real flaws and stuff like that.
I love how you guys build sympathetic villains.
Yeah.
That is so much more compelling than just I'm a bad guy.
Yeah.
When they have legit motivations and you can see from their perspective, that makes it so much more interesting. And y'all do that.
Even if it's a flawed perspective, like people have that in the real world, where something happens to them and they just react either aggressively or anything like that. As long as it makes sense, then that makes a more compelling villain than the mustache twirling. I've tied you to a railroad track. Like, why? What does this accomplish? But yeah, I think it helped with me wanting to take that immersion visually to putting it in verbally. Also playing other tabletop games, not getting that, and then creating NPCs that are compelling instead of just because it's so easy. It's so easy to throw on a tabard and pick up a boffer stick and then run out there and just fight people for entertainment, but it's not compelling. It's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think both of what you all talked about, Katie, with your being in character in those moments, Devan and the NPCs you and Dustin both bring to life, and then everyone at the table. Like, I think even the minimal experience that you all have had with LARPing definitely levels up D4 in terms of just the quality of the role play in general. The table, it's so much fun to watch. So, yeah. So, I appreciate that insight and just how valuable that experience has been for you all. Shifting back a little bit. So story threads, Seisha's in these emotional moments, you're in these emotional moments. Devan, you and Dustin are working towards these emotional moments with the players. Seisha, question for you. When did you start suspecting that you were tied to Lara? And when did Seisha start to wonder where her divine form came from?
It was actually pretty early. If you go back and watch, she and I, well, it was around the same time for both me and the character. But she went and talked to one of the other Asimar and asked them about what it means to be tied to a god. And she was very, I think I made reference at that point to her being concerned about her abilities being misty instead of golden. And so that was when she first started to suspect, really Katie first started to suspect, because Seisha was kind of sweet about it, that there may be a connection there. It was, I felt I felt egotistical, thinking, oh, she's related to Lara. I felt like that was too much, and it would be too cool, so I couldn't have it. And it turned out that I should have trusted my gut because it was awesome, and she's Lara's daughter, and that added so much to the character because you've lived your whole life in pursuit of honoring this thing, and then you find out that at your core you are its antithesis. And so there's a conflict there of, well, is it nature or nurture? And I'm really looking forward to exploring that. That's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
I will harken back to what you started this answer with, and it was Yowen.
Yowen, thank you.
Yowen, the Asimar of death.
Yeah.
And although he serves the god he's tied to, he's not a direct descendant of or whatever.
Right.
He also let you know that just because you are tied to that certain deity does not mean that you must follow their teachings.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
To
So-
Seisha, it's kind of about honoring her mother and where the line is between that and who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. So, Devan, how long have you and Dustin known or planned this thread? And at any point in time, Goblin, was there like collaboration between you and DMs on this, or was this like total just like, whoa, they're taking my backstory that I've done and gone a whole different direction?
It was pretty early on. I don't know if we were 100% gonna make you a daughter of Lara or a daughter of a follower of Lara in the very, very beginning. But the more, I think when your aspect, your divine form started showing through, we made the decision before then. Because we were like, oh, it'd be really cool to make her look like this, you know. And eventually, like, and keep building her divine form every 5 levels and yada 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 and all this kind of stuff. So that was fun to play with. So yeah, it was pretty early on that we knew what we wanted to do, but because of the nature of Lara, it was really hard. Because everything basically has to be a misdirection. Everything has to be a lie. But if you make it a direct lie, that, you know, it can cause problems. So it's better with misdirection, but that also creates like wild conspiracy theories like and then you have to keep track of what you've done. It is an absolute nightmare. I do not suggest anybody be a miscaller because good lord, how do you go through life? But there's another thing that we'll probably talk about tonight of who Lara also was in Seisha's life, and that one I will say actually was chosen a little bit later. Because we were enjoying the duality of the thing that you were just talking about, but making Lara also the other one, that was a little later, and we were like, oh, this is too good. Because,
that was a twist I did not see coming.
Yeah, but it also, the implications it meant that her mother was always there.
Yeah. And that is huge. That is something that she realized this last episode is within the course of her life, her mother has watched over her. And even though in the journal her mother discussed knowing what love is, but seeing what it cost the day she left. And so Seisha has interpreted that, whether it's right or wrong, Seisha has interpreted that as her mother knew that she was going to betray her. And despite that, Lara spent her life watching over Seisha and being there for her, knowing that she would literally be the death of her. And then the litany of lies that she told was everything Seisha ever wanted to hear from her mother. And so I was in the dark on a lot of what they intended to do, but I love everything they did. Every twist and turn has been so incredible. I am one of those players who will eat up conflict with a spoon, just give me more. And the internal conflict that all of this has spawned has been just my ideal. I love it, and I have full trust in Dustin and Devan, and they don't betray that trust. They give story that is compelling, and as long as it's compelling, I'm in. I'm good with it. You can do whatever you want to my character. I'll go with it, and it's just part of the character's journey. So I've been incredibly fortunate that they have crafted this incredible story, and I had very little input on it. I basically created her history, and that was it. They've really built everything else.
Yeah, the only thing that Goblin put in was that her mother was a follower of Lyra, and she left, and that was it.
Yeah.
Posed as a follower of, Ogma or Denier or and somehow, got affiliated with her father. But then her father later found out that she actually was a follower of Lyra, and we're like, how can we use this? And then going off of what you said, thank you for being such an amazing player and allowing us to go down such dark paths, because this is the kind of story you wanted to tell. We know it's been bleak, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a little rough to put you through so much, but it really told a sad but beautiful story.
Yeah. And it's a story that's evolving. When I created Seisha, I wanted her to be a character that evolved. I wanted a character that would learn and change from her life experiences. And you guys have given me so much food for that. It's incredible.
Yeah. So much change. Everything you knew was a lie.
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay.
Everything. In fact, one of our Discord commenters, Cheetah, said this, I loved watching Seisha go from innocent traveler in pursuit of knowledge to battle-hardened adventurer to taking a new oath. How do you feel about Seisha's journey losing her innocence, and how does Seisha feel about her own character development?
Ooh. Katie loves it. I think that it has been one of the best character evolutions I have ever played. It has I played the same LARP character for about 20 years, and she had a beautiful story. I loved her story. I like Seisha's better.
Wow.
There's more challenge to the growth in Seisha, and her coming to terms with everything is more difficult because she led such a sheltered life initially. She went into this adventure with no understanding of interpersonal relationships outside her family and Voss. And he's not exactly the best example to have interpersonal relationships with. But
No.
yeah, but she's struggling right now. She's struggling really hard to come to terms with this life-changing series of events, because it wasn't just one thing. It was bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Just getting hit with over and over and not having time to catch her breath before the next blow came.
I can tell you that we did not plan for all of that.
Yeah.
we
you.
we did not be like, how can we just really just make everybody feel like utter ass, and take everything away from them. No,
It's been beautiful. She is struggling. She's having a really hard time, and she recognizes that she's growing and changing, and she recognizes that that's not inherently a bad thing. She is at a crossroads right now and has to decide which path she wants to take. And she made a step towards one of those paths, a big one, in the last session.
Yeah. And Neoma Rose asked, like, when did Seisha decide to break, or in this case, change her oath?
Mm-hmm.
How long had she been contemplating doing that before she actually did it?
When Lara died, Seisha was released from her oath. She, when she swore her oath, it was actually to Lara, without her knowing it, because, spoiler, she thought Lara was Ogma. She did not realize. She had no clue that she was being guided by the antithesis to what she thought she had sworn to. And it was when she met her mother and when she learned about how her mother had been there for her, and then that was ripped away from her. Less than 5 minutes after she met her mother, she was dead. And that made her decision to swear an oath of vengeance easy. She had this mother who loved her, and she had what she had always wanted, and she was forced to play a role in destroying that. And the anger and the bitterness that she holds towards the Elder Eye and George Forsworn and the rest of them is profound. The decision to make that oath was made within hours, and made with full confidence that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah,
let me just...
I was going to say, the way Paladins work in 5th edition versus older editions, like older editions you were tied to a deity or a religion, and this one is you're tied to your own willpower and litany and your beliefs, whether that be, religious or not. And Oathbreaker just didn't make sense, because Oathbreaker is like all about necromancy and like all of this other stuff. And the reason why, like, in the following episode, we call Seisha oathless, and that is because, not because she lost the deity she swore an oath to, but because she swore an oath of truth, and that oath of truth ended up being a complete lie, and with that revelation, she can no longer hold an oath of truth.
Yeah.
So that's why she became oathless. And then we talked with Goblin about, and Dustin and I also were gonna, had multiple options, but vengeance just made the most sense.
As soon as it came up, I was like, that one.
Yeah.
That one. It was too perfect. It fit too perfectly.
Yeah, we were looking at other homebrew ones, like an Oathless Paladin, or one that was like, I forget what it was called, but it was like an Oath of Deception, and stuff like that. But Vengeance it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me just say, Goblin, that oath that you swore in the moment, that last session, so good and
Thank you.
So in the moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to ask, like, obviously you and Dustin and Devan had been talking, like, had you planned for that moment in particular to involve the characters you involved, or was that like were you sitting there being like, I need to swear this and I need to write it out like in session? Like just from I'm just curious. Like
I actually wrote the oath between games.
okay.
And I talked to Dustin and Devan about it, and I wrote the oath and sent it to them, and they had one note, which was to add the I can't remember his name.
Severin Seljarin.
Thank you. They suggested adding him, and I was like, oh yeah, how did I forget that? But in the moment when I was standing there, and I knew I needed someone to witness it. And I started thinking about it, and it made sense for V to be the witness, because as far as Seisha is concerned, V is the one who is the champion of this battle. And that's why Seisha said, I am the harbinger, instead of saying, I will be, because she sees herself as V's assistant in this, I guess is the best way to put it. She believes that the Omiliana is the one who is going to do the locking away. As much as Seisha wants to, as much as she wants it, she doesn't have the skills for it. So at this point, she is viewing it as V's role to fill. So she wanted V to be there as the witness.
That's
awesome. That's so cool.
It was awesome using their own words against them. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
good. Oh yeah.
The only thing I wish I made a suggestion. It was like, oh, can you throw some blesseds in there?
That would have been good. Blessed. I'll work that in later when we actually fight them. I'll have a blessed litany ready.
Okay. Cool.
There you go. I love that. I'm looking forward to that. So along all of these lines, Mama Strange asks, she kind of clarified a question there in the Discord, like, has Seisha lost sight of hope? And I would add on, or is this new oath a form of hope for Seisha?
I think Seisha is struggling. She has lost hope. She recognizes that that's one of her main things in the group, is that she is hopeful. She's the one who tries to look on the bright side of things, and she has lost that. And it's going to take a lot of work for her to regain that. Because the thing she has lived her whole life in pursuit of is gone. And it's hard to have hope when you've lost what matters most. So she's searching. And I think she's going to use the new oath. I can see her using the new oath as a step on the path to regaining her hope, but it's going to be hard for a little while.
Totally get that. And especially,
way to go, Devan.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know if anybody's played Call of Cthulhu or read Lovecraftian things. Eldritch horror is supposed to be about up against something you feasibly cannot win against. And the terror is not, oh, what is this monster in the sky that's making everybody go mad? It's, I can't fight that. And the Harold even said himself.
Harold hit it last session, yeah.
Oh yeah.
How do we beat that?
How do we beat that? And there are ways. You just gotta look at what's available to you, and sometimes it's not just David and Goliath.
Yeah. We got a Veterock. We're on the right path.
You tried the Veterock is a Goliath. That's not in your favor. You go by the story.
That's a good point.
Oh, fair point. Fair point. Oh, man. So, Seisha did lose a lot in such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you all had finished cleansing your solar, which is a huge win
Oh,
for
yeah.
Seisha. Like, that is massive.
Yes.
So, twofold question here. One, how did that feel knowing that, hey, this is done, finally? Let's start there, and then I've got a follow-up.
It was mixed, honestly. Seisha was very, very relieved. But then got hit right after with losing her mom. Katie loved the way it culminated, and the fact that Seisha was going through this mental battle while her friends were in a physical battle. And I love the fact that Venli figured it out and was like, oh wait, maybe we're just supposed to fix the solar. I loved that she put it together. Katie loves flirting with darkness. So I was like, okay, that's done. But I've been given another path to flirt with darkness. So I'm a happy camper.
I will say, if you did not pass that first wisdom save when the Solar tried to inhabit your body through your mind, it would have been Seisha versus the party at first. And then when...
Glad I made that save.
Yeah. Would have been Seisha versus the party. And then your saves would have been to try and then pull the Solar out.
Right.
So that you could have hurt them real bad, and then the real battle could have began.
Yeah.
But you passed.
That 7 attacks per round was nasty.
Yeah, it was
nasty.
brutal.
Look, if you have wings made of hands...
You get slapped.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Oh, it makes sense. Still nasty.
Yes.
So nasty. I loved it.
There was supposed to be more on that field, but we're limited on time and things like that. It happens. We also may have forgotten the minis, but neither here nor there.
Details.
But it was an amazing fight either way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Seisha, right after that completion, you are confronted with the choice.
Yeah.
How hard was that for you to make in that moment?
That was really hard. I thought about that ever since the hag said she wanted that information. That was something that I agonized over for a long time. And Seisha believes she made the right choice, but the wrong choice. Mm-hmm. She gave them another god. And the consequences of that are profound. But at the same time, she saved the life of this little girl. And it's like Venli said, if we don't do it for those people, why are we doing it? Mm-hmm. And a lot of it came down to Seisha believing that she couldn't bear the thought of separating a mother and their child. And she has a plan. She's got a plan. And I'll leave it at that.
I will say, in when we first said you had to make a choice, you thought the choice was between Ogma and Lara.
Yeah.
And then we clarified. And it's... Because I don't know if you heard, but we said that in one pathway you see a feminine figure, and then the other you see a smaller feminine figure.
And I thought that was Seisha. I thought that was
okay.
like Seisha as a child.
Got it.
So she was choosing between what she had believed since childhood or what she was seeing now.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's where that confusion came from.
Got it.
Yeah.
I would also like to think that one of the, you may not even realize this, but a factor pushing your decision could be Voss in his guilt of basically condemning children and how he's
Well, and there's a reason when she sent that is
yeah,
entirely on point, because when she sent the Whispering Wind to Voss, she made a point of telling him Pixel is safe.
sending.
Sending. Damn it. Sorry, the LARP that I played for 20-something years has a similar spell called Whispering Wind. So I always get confused. I love the name of that spell. It's such a cool spell name, but I always get those confused.
Just clarifying for the people listening.
It's kind of important.
Yeah.
A little bit. So, Devan, how long had you and Dustin been, knowing that you were going to make Seisha make that choice?
So when she first made the deal with the hag, I said this on, I think, the last D4&After. So, surprise, I don't know if Goblin knows this. The hag was never supposed to be a part of the big story.
I do know about that because we had a guest that
And-
was supposed to be on and they couldn't make it.
Yeah, because they booked a movie gig, and we were like, well, they're already here. So we alluded to his form kind of wandering in the forest, and he was supposed to help you take down the hag, and that's what the story was supposed to be. That was it. But one, green hags, if played correctly, are fucking menacing.
Good news, you're playing it correctly.
They are
Good news.
They are terrifying, even for a typical because when you guys fought her, she was just a green hag.
Yeah.
As green hag stats, things may have changed.
A little bit.
But
Just probably a wee bit.
so so when Pixel was involved and you unknowingly gave a child to the hag, we're like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then you and Harold both made these deals with a hag, which is like number one thing you shouldn't do. But that's why the hag said, I will trade you knowledge you yet not know, because Dustin and I had no fucking clue what we wanted to do with the hag. No clue whatsoever.
You made a good
You did,
choice.
folks.
Yeah. And because of that, we were like, well, now the hag's got to be a part of the big story, and there's other things tied to it that I can't talk about because it's spoilery,
Sure.
blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
But it wasn't too long after that when we started solidifying the hag's purpose, and then we were like, oh, we know exactly what's needed. This is what's going to be. And so we've known for a long time, but we didn't... There's a lot of information that we give the players, but because our game is so long and so info-filled, there's some things that you guys forgot that has happened since the beginning or since the end of last year. That we
Easily.
will have to, I guess, remind you. But we didn't want the hag to come and be like, hey, this is what I want, and then Seisha forget. So we kind of pushed it till kind of around when it could happen. So it was fresh in Seisha's mind of like, I have to stew and deal with this emotion, especially after finding the diary and deciphering the diary and all of these things, like just this building culmination of events that eventually led to you don't get time, because it was as soon as you have to make the decision.
Yeah.
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 And there was something you said last session where Vinley had the retort of, if we're not doing it for them, what's the point?
Yeah.
And that was realizing that the hag put you in the position of the good of the many versus the good of the few.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Seisha chose the good of the few.
Yeah.
And regrets it.
Regrets it from a strategic standpoint, but probably
Yes.
not from a moral
Well,
standpoint.
from a strategic and an emotional standpoint.
Yeah, for sure.
She lost her mother. She took that pain on rather than inflict it on Kara. And so there was a little bit of selfish motivation in it as well, because she didn't want to have to tell Kara, I chose my own happiness over yours. So,
Fucking rough.
yeah. Yeah.
That would have been real hard.
There's an onion here, and it is a stinky, stinky onion with many layers.
Oh man. It's gonna be interesting to watch Seisha's journey and to see how all this plays out. There's a part of me and that wonders, like, obviously this was a deal with a hag. Like, is the deal really done?
Yeah.
Like,
You're not alone in
So-
that concern.
yeah. I feel like a lot of us on the viewing side probably have that perspective, and we're all like, the players are smart, the characters are smart at this point. I think even it might have been Harold or someone alluded to it last time, where it was like, yeah, we think Pixel's safe,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so
I think it was
there's even
Harold,
the doubt.
yeah.
I think there's even that doubt among you all, like, she's safe, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be fascinating to watch unfold.
What I love about that is the duality of that a green hag is a hag of illusions and lies and deception, and Seisha's mother is also a mother of illusions and deception. So yeah, there's that aspect, and that's kind of how we went into playing the Mistmaster. Is everything was to muddy truth and make you question everything. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what a green hag does, because...
Was it?
Is it?
Shut up.
Are you sure?
Should I? But yeah, if a green hag, again, played correctly, it'll make you question everything. Question every choice you make. Am I making the right decision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
cause, and and for that, cause infighting and all of that kind of wildness.
And I think we've seen that ever since then. It doesn't always manifest in every episode, but I think that especially in these bigger moments where it's obvious, the players are definitely like, oh, what do we do about it now? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, Katie, about how that has kind of just pulled at the group over time.
We've had so much pulling at us lately. And it's amazing to play through. The struggles that we've faced and being there for each other through them, and knowing that what we do has consequence has been huge. Especially with Voss and his exit, the whole thing about Ellerthak had us pitted against each other. There's no denying it. We were on different sides.
Totally.
And it that conflict, I think, has both enhanced and damaged our unity. This last episode, Seisha confessed to Harold something that she realized in the mirror, which was that she did resent him. She did hold it against him. The way he spoke to Voss played a part in could have played a part in his decision to leave, but then she also recognized Voss made his choice. And nothing anyone did could have stopped it. Because he he realized that he couldn't do what he needed to do. And Voss is a creature of direction. He is a determined figure, and he has goals, and he will see those goals achieved. That's my opinion. And so when that became too complicated, he decided to find another means to his end. And I think a lot of the group has realized that, and it's sort of made us question our trust in each other. I know Harold has. I know Seisha has. I know Venli has. I don't know about V. V is such a... She's simple and complicated at the same time, and I find her fascinating. She is... I never know which way V's going to go, and I can usually hem out where the other characters are going, but V is such a...
She lives in the moment.
She lives in the moment, yeah. And it's fascinating to me to watch her. But I think the rest of us, we've grown together and apart through all this in different ways.
I think that comes through all of your sacrifices, your losses, but also your wins. Like, technically, you guys haven't lost besides this last, like, you losing your mother.
Yeah.
You guys,
we lost in the fight against Manchun.
Yeah, you did lose against the fight in Manchun. Yeah, there is that. But that wasn't like it was a devastating loss in the fact that people died. Yes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a devastating loss in the sense of...
We got them back, so it wasn't a
you didn't
loss.
you actually didn't lose a lot of ground. Basically, all you did was you ended up having to do something for Manchun. But you guys liberated the field ward and united them with the city. You've liberated the Veterok clan. You've all of you liberated Daggerford as trialing as that was. Like there are a lot of things that have been really like hard on the emotional and moral scale, but you guys have triumphed. I will say the only other loss that you guys had was the Castellanters, and losing the Castellanters, I know, is a huge turning point for Harold, and that is what kind of has steered his moral compass very hard.
Yeah.
Honestly, Seisha didn't really care about losing the Castellanters because they assisted the Far Realm, so they...
But they did it to save their children.
Yeah, and she might have a different opinion about it now, but she
Okay.
hasn't up until now.
Still might take a little time to get there.
Yep.
Yep, just a little bit. I know that we're closing in on our time here.
Again,
one thing I wanted to...
It's okay.
Yeah, totally.
I'm fine to keep going.
I am so good to keep going.
Okay.
I would
Awesome.
love to answer people's questions, so...
Well, on that note, Legolas Hardywings, Seisha, you brought up Voss. You actually sent a sending to Voss in the most recent episode and got a response.
I did not expect
So,
that. Yeah.
Legolas wants to know, is Seisha going to see Voss when she gets back to Waterdeep?
Yeah, absolutely. He is still her best friend, as far as she's concerned. He did things that she doesn't agree with or doesn't like, but she believes him when he says it's always been for the best interests of the group, because we haven't seen anything to the contrary. She knows he's manipulative. She knows he's conniving, and she's more on guard, I think, in her affection for him, but he's her Voss. He'll always be her Voss, and if he calls on her, she'll answer.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, we've been talking to Logan the whole time. We know what's going on.
Yeah, totally. I still remember that look from you, Devan, being like, your message goes through, and Dustin's like, and you get a response.
Yeah,
And you're
and
like,
that's because we messaged Logan and I said, hey, if you have a response, this is what she's sending you. If you could record something for us,
Yeah.
so that we could play it. That way, we're not playing Voss. And
Yeah.
we never got one of those. So that's why my misunderstanding was
Got it.
that. But Dustin had the responses, so.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if that would have been like a message that actually happened like in the moment, or if those have been pre-delivered. So
They got delivered, I think, that day or something like that. But
gotcha.
But yeah.
Goblin, has Seisha thought at all, and this is coming from Strike Red Kite, has Seisha thought at all about what happens after her list is done for her new oath?
No, she is so focused and driven on it. Well, she'll take it as it comes, but in the back of her head, now that she's an Aasimar to a dead god, she's starting to wonder if she can have her own life, because she's always felt like as an Aasimar she has this duty she has to fulfill. She is somehow connected to the divine, and so she has to fulfill that calling. And now that she understands that she is the daughter of a dead goddess, she isn't necessarily as bound to having a role to fill. She's I don't want to go into it too much because
No, totally.
some of it is
Spoilers,
stuff, but
yeah.
she's coming to terms with it, and the guys hit it on the head. Her ideal is to go off an adventure with Gariel. Once everything with the BFGs is settled, she knows Gariel misses adventuring, and Seisha loves it. As horrible and as devastating as it is, it's so much better than sitting in this little run-down monastery with 3 other people and nothing to fill your day but chores.
And stories you've read 1,000 times.
Stories you've read 1,000 times, yeah, like the Dicks.
The newest book that was added. Oh, something new, and probably why Seisha fell so in love with it.
Oh yes, yeah. She had read everything else, and this one was exciting and adventurous and cover to cover. And but now she's for the first time she's got the potential of a future she wants, and in her own mind. Now whether that ends up continuing or whether she goes down a different path is all going to kind of depend on the roll of the dice.
Yeah. And I think it's telling that in the solar cleansing, when Devan and Dustin asked you, like, hey, where are you, Seisha? You went back to on the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Sailing.
said you're someplace that you feel safe and happy, I think.
You feel comfort.
For the first one.
Comfort, yeah.
Comfort.
Yeah.
And so that was, okay, where has she felt most comforted? With Gariel.
Yeah.
Because Gariel hasn't, as far as she knows, hasn't lied to her. And has always been a positive little ray of light in Seisha's life. So that's where she finds comfort. That's where she finds wholeness.
Originally, she wasn't gonna be.
Yeah, I know.
Originally, she
I
wasn't
really
gonna be.
love that you guys adjusted that, though, because I love her having that that joy to fall back on when everything else is so overwhelming and so grim. She can think of Gariel, and it centers her. And I like her having that. I really do. Plus, I get to pick out really cool music for my playlist for Seisha and Gariel. So,
Is it bad that I'm sitting here like, I've And then Devin and Dustin pull the rug out from
I
under.
know. I'm terrified of it. I'm terrified of it constantly. Like,
No, we're not
at
gonna.
least wait 6 months. That's all I ask. Give me 6 months.
We like the pairing too much.
Yeah,
like the
it's
Yeah,
a sweet
yeah.
pair, and they're just so cute together.
The reason why we kept it is because it was that duality again. Is there's this person that is nothing but true, and then there's this person that is typically nothing but lies.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Yeah. So Seisha's pretty raw right now. I feel like she hasn't had the opportunity to process
No.
what's happened. Like, what are the risks with her continuing down and just not getting that time to process?
yeah. The
If you feel comfortable sharing.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm thinking through it.
Yeah, totally.
She is on the verge of depression. I apologize, Stella. Stop it. She's on the verge of slipping into depression. She has seen all these terrible things about herself that she didn't want to admit. She has lost her mother. She has lost a fight for the like you were saying, for one of the first times. She ran. She didn't stand her ground. She didn't defend her mother. She just ran. And she looks at that as, well, I did what I was told. I fulfilled the last request of my mother, because her last request was for her to run.
Yeah.
So she's kind of clinging to that, but part of her problem is she doesn't feel like she can talk about these things because she doesn't want it's very akin to how people deal with it in real life. She doesn't want everybody to see her as an emotional burden. And while she doesn't know how to deal with this stuff, I think she'll eventually start opening up about it. But for right now, she is broken, and she is struggling to reach the pieces to start putting back together. And it's gonna be a long journey, and that's part of the reason I love the Oath of Vengeance so much, is because the emotion behind the Oath of Vengeance fits with where she is so well at this point. She can't confront a lot of the issues within herself at the moment, but she can confront the exterior things. And so I see her being more violent in dealing with things. I see her being more deceptive, because she's coming to terms with the fact that she is the child of the goddess of deception. And she's going to kind of figure out how that really plays into her life. So she's got that going for her, but she's in a bad place. She's in a very bad place.
Yeah.
I would recommend therapy for her.
well, that's kind of what the citadel of the Gith Zerai was supposed to be. I mean, it was ugly therapy, obviously. But
Oh yeah, it was ugly therapy, but it was therapeutic. Like she recognized and acknowledged a lot of problems with.
And then she took a huge step forward by admitting to Harold something that she was lying to herself about. It's things like that a lot of times doesn't get played into in roleplay games and things like that. But it was seeing how this world has gone and all the choices you've made as a group and individuals. It does weigh on you, and it also allows the audience to have that little peek into the window of your soul as to why you make certain decisions and things like that. So.
And I kind of love, I was talking to the guys about Dustin and Devan about Seisha's final act as a paladin of Ogma was saving a bard. And I love that in that moment when she saw Harold falling into the magma, her problems with him just seemed so small and so superficial. And so she just plunged into that lava to pull him out and fell herself. And I love that. I love the way that played out. That it was one of her final acts as a paladin of Ogma in her mind, was upholding one of the biggest tenets of Ogma.
Not only Harold, but Shervy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how her lifetime of service to Ogma settles with her knowledge of part of her essence as far as she's concerned.
I, for one, can't wait to watch as that story continues to evolve and grow, and as Seisha continues to journey, and as Devan and Dustin continue to sprinkle their touches onto all of the story arcs. So I'm excited.
Well,
Definitely.
we want to try and wrap this game up in the next year, ideally. Just because it's been going on for so long, we have plans for other things and yada yada yada. But so we're kind of in the end game, but not really. There's still like more stuff to come, but it's been like, to put it in Seisha's story arc aspect, it's been the gathering of knowledge of what's happening, and now it's time to fight what's coming.
Now it's the execution of the knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably execution literally in some sense.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully.
Very literally. I've already made plans for certain situations. So.
And so you and Harold, I think, have a bond over a green hag strangling them simultaneously. I think something along
I'm going to come
those
from
lines.
one side. He's going to come from the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to share with the audience and me just all these insights. A little peek behind the curtain, a little peek behind Seisha. It is so great. I love getting to hear the next level down, as it were, just with what's going on with everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
It's been fun for 138 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And more coming.
Here's to
along
138 more.
There you go. Devan's like, not in this arc, guys. Not in this arc.
Absolutely not.
We're gonna run out of things for you to do.
What can I ask? And you can refuse to answer, but
Sure.
What level do you see us being at the end?
We would like for you guys to be at 20,
Cool. Okay.
but it is where we get to. Like in 5th edition, 15 and beyond is considered epic level.
Right.
But nobody ever gets to see a game fully go to 20. So
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I've never had a character reach 20, like from level 1. So that would be a new one.
yeah. Ideally, we would like to, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right, here's to level 20. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in this evening. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll be back next week with Dustin and Ellie and chatting with them. So, interviewing our newest cast member. With that having been said, Sunday's coming, folks. See you then.